Many people think that a legally enforceable agreement requires a formal document signed by all parties. But that's not the case. You can have a legally enforceable agreement even if the agreement is just by email, or term sheet, or outline, and even if the parties contemplate but never execute a more formal signed agreement. In those cases, if one of the parties wants to try to enforce the original agreement reached at the mediation or the settlement conference, courts will often enforce those agreements. The test for whether courts will do so turns on whether the parties intended to be legally bound by that initial agreement. In New York, courts will always start with the text of the agreement itself. To have the greatest likelihood that a court will hold that your term sheet or preliminary agreement is legally enforceable, you should put in that agreement that the parties intend to be bound by it. But sometimes your adversary won't agree to that. In those circumstances, you need to ensure that your term sheet or other initial agreement includes all material terms. And most importantly, you need to ensure that that term sheet or initial agreement does not state that it's subject to or conditioned upon execution of a more formal settlement agreement. Because if it says that, there's a pretty good chance that the court is going to hold that the original agreement was not intended to be legally enforceable. At Schlam, Stone & Dolan, we regularly litigate these types of issues. And when we negotiate agreements for clients, we're always thinking about whether our initial agreements or negotiations could give rise to a claim that there was a legally enforceable agreement even without a signed final agreement. So please call us if you or a client need to discuss trying to enforce or refute a preliminary agreement reached after a mediation.